What's up?
What's going on, guys? How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing great. Enjoying this fine day, ready to get this podcast going and get ready for the weekend and just be able to kind of, hang out, getting ready for spring break. So, yeah, man, it's going to be pretty good.
Sorry, guys, if I'm messing with this microphone. We changed positions, and so now my body has to get used to the new position. It's all like, what's going on? So,
I feel like it's okay for me. I feel like this is working
Good.
out, so I kind of like that. So, you guys can kind of
see the
see this
face. See how
mug.
pretty he looks.
got the bald head today, so y'all get to enjoy the shine, the glimmer.
Yeah, just swapped out one Jets hat for another one.
There we go, man. So, hey, Tyler, so we recorded our episode 1. Hopefully a lot of people enjoyed it. But now we want to start getting to some kind of serious talks, some serious conversations. And I think one thing that we kind of sat down and kind of worked out on what we want to do for this season is really talk about topics that are really important to dads, meaningful to dads. Again, same time with the banter and the fun stuff.
Right.
But overall, man, dude, let's dive in today on work-life balance. Like, one, what is work-life balance? But two, like, what does work-life balance look at in your home? And let's just start a conversation on work-life balance, like, especially from dad's perspective. I think we hear it from business perspective and kind of young single and live your life perspective. But man, work-life balance, I think, looks radically different for dad. So man, let's just dive into that topic today.
Sure. So let's hit first, let's establish a baseline, right? Like, what is work-life balance, right? Like, we may all have our own definition, but at least for me, work-life balance, and you tell me how your opinion or your definition may change, is the ability to balance your job, your happiness, joy, mental health, we'll say, along with your family and your home life and things. And not even that, right? Because it's not just your family and home life. It's just anything that has to do with your own personal life separated.
Yeah.
Whether that's physical, mental. So for me, that's what that looks like.
Yeah. I would agree. I think the idea of work-life balance is balancing, like you said, right? Managing, controlling, if you will, of your schedule, time, and hours of your personal life and your work life. I think this is so important because I think many times, young men that I know, especially that I kind of invest in and pour time in, and just even myself and even older guys, like, this is a difficult task. I think part of that of being a man, right, is that we want to be providers. We want to kind of give it our all, right? Same time, we want to kind of move ourselves up like the corporate ladder.
Sure.
And so, man, sometimes work-life balance is hard.
It's difficult.
It's hard.
It's a grind.
Yeah.
Right? And also too, how do you balance, at our age, I would still say that you're still in this bracket too, because we're still grinders, right?
Yeah.
We're grinding. It's I know you're a lot like me, and it's I don't want to just have good enough. I want to be successful.
Yeah.
Right? And I think hard work pays off.
Yeah.
And I think that how do you balance? What I'm trying to say, how to ask it. How do you separate work-life balance and maybe having a bad work-life balance and the hustle?
Yeah. I think in my life, I've lived in both scenarios, right? I definitely lived on a horrible work-life balance. I think one thing that you mentioned, more last podcast, right? And you kind of mentioned it a little bit today, is this idea of success. Right. I think for a lot of us, we want to be successful. We see success as, the 3-story house, right? The 2.5 kids, the dog, the picket fence, right? We see that being able to afford the trips and stuff like that. That's kind of what we see success as. Maybe having some employees under you. We see success as that.
Right.
I think our culture is beginning to kind of push back a little bit on that, saying, well, maybe success isn't that. Right. Maybe success isn't moving up the corporate ladder and being the CEO, owning your own business and things like that. Or maybe it is owning your own business, but maybe it's not a multi-million-dollar business. Maybe it's a, coffee shop. Right. Maybe it is doing a card shop. Maybe it is doing your own landscaping business. Or I think we're starting to redefine really what successful is, right? So I think that's important to begin to define, right? And then I also try to be I like to think of it like this, what's my main goal? What's my main idea of success? Is it the corporate route, right? Or is it I want my kids to say good things about me. at my funeral.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like, do I want my kids to be like hating me, say like, "Yo, I never saw this man.
Yeah.
I never seen like." It's so funny. When I was in college, I was in my creative writing class, and I had to write a play. Right? I don't know if you ever had to write kind of one of those, but in my creative writing class, I had to write a play, and I wrote a play basically about that, a guy who did not have good work-life balance. Right? Just kind of your typical American story.
Sure.
Always devote himself to work and things like that, and then at the very end, he gets hit with divorce papers because he refuses to give up his job, right, for that. And I wrote that up as make believe, just kind of hearing little stories, watching movies, and things like that. Little did I know, as I continued to graduate from college and just got older, how like eerie similar like this kind of narrative really
Right.
is. It
Yeah.
happens quite a lot. Now typically it's the guy who ends up divorcing his wife, though, in this scenario. Like I think that's where I was off
Sure.
in my creative writing play. Typically it's that, or man, just marriages are miserable and things like that. So I think overall we just got to stop and just define what is success, and where do you want to be successful at. Do you want to be successful at home? Right? Do I want to be a successful dad? Like, do I want to be that bad dad? Right?
Right.
No pun intended. Right? Or do I want to be that CEO? Right?
Right.
Do I want to be that guy that drives my business? And here's the thing, bro. Like, I think you know as well as I know. Like, sometimes, man, like when you get to that end of that ladder, right? Like you end up kind of miserable. You end up realizing, like happiness and sunshine isn't what was promised to me once I got to the top.
So there was a study done. I did a little bit of research today that in 2021 they did like 3,500 people that they did that held a full-time job 8 to 5, and 77% said that they were miserable in their job.
Quite quitting.
Yeah. And so it's funny. I was listening up. Gosh, I can't remember this guy's name. It's gonna drive me crazy. I'll remember it next time. But there's this guy I follow on YouTube. And he's very practical in some of the things he says. And him and his wife, they developed multiple billion-dollar companies. And he said, he was talking about work-life balance and talking about how it's kind of a myth in the sense of like how it's defined. And he's like, it's a cliche to say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life type thing. And it's like, if you're not working, are you passionate about what you're doing?
Yeah.
And that's in anything, your marriage, that's in your home life, right? At your job. But what he was kind of like alluding to in a sense is like success, and what that looks like comes from your own, like what's the, like, for lack of better words, what you're at peace with, right? So are you at peace with driving the Lamborghini and all that? Like, is that what truly gives you peace, or does that give you false happiness, right? Like happiness and joy is different, right? I feel like happiness can almost be defined as like a short term to what joy is. And I think that's another misconception in the world is, what is joy, right?
Yeah.
Happiness and joy, I think, is different.
Yeah.
And I think what truly brings you joy in life, like, is when you're like emotionally fed. Whenever you have your like affairs in order, in the sense of like if your work life is good, usually the home life for the most part, there studies show that is typically healthier. It's better. Obviously there's different like certain circumstances that's not the case, but for the most part, I believe that the better work-life balance, the more that you're able to, like you said, define success. And in my opinion, for me, it's defining joy.
Yeah.
I think that's where you find your kind of roadmap as to having that work-life balance.
Because that's really good, dude, because like that's the reality. Like okay, cool, today, like you're a salesman, but man, maybe tomorrow something different begins to, call you up. So you don't have to chase, the big sale, right? Knowing that tomorrow, man, Lord may put something different in your heart, and you may find joy in something different.
Sure.
And I think that's a good way to define it, man. Like, didn't think about it like that. Like, as you're about saying, I was like, yo, that's a good way to look at it. It's a good perspective, because we for a while may be at this one place, but who knows where we may be at tomorrow?
Right.
Who knows where we may end up at?
Yeah.
And but if our goal is, like you were saying, that joy, like that changes things, so I don't have to chase the Lambo or, the Range Rover or whatever that vehicle may be. Right. I don't have to chase, all the accolades and vacations. Like, man, I'm chasing what I feel is ultimately that brings that joy no matter what happens. It's not happiness, right?
Right.
But whatever storms may come, like there's that inner peace. Like that's why you could be at a table and be eating rice and beans.
Yeah.
But man, if everybody at the home is happy, loved, cared for, like to me, that's a better form of success than, we're going to Ruth's Chris tonight, but we all hate each other.
Right. Right.
We could all really truly hate each other.
You may get that short stint of happiness while you're cutting into that, 22-ounce bone-in ribeye.
Ooh,
come on.
I mean, come on.
But, that's going to be gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's, even kind of going back, like with marriage, for our listeners who are married, like, for me, one thing that I've always said to Taylor in my marriage is like, I want our marriage to be defined as love for me and me loving my wife is in commitment to her is it doesn't matter if we are sitting in a box on the side of the road. Obviously that's uncomfortable, obviously, but as long as I have her, like I'm okay because she brings me joy. Like my family brings me joy. If all I have is my family, like that's where my joy is. All I have is the Lord, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where your joy comes from, right? And I mean, and you can go down your own hole with that. We won't, really get into that necessarily, but like it really, I think, stems from that all, if you can keep that. But I think the problem with society, right, is that we're painted that picture you were talking about, right? Like the picket fence as when shiny things, right? We all have like an inner ADD person, right? And it catches our attention as, well, I really like that. Things, right?
And that's the thing about things. Things always get old. Like I got the new iPhone and here I am now. Like, okay, it's kind of old already.
Right.
And the new one ain't out yet, but they're starting to talk about it. You could have a car, literally buy a brand new car. You can buy a brand new 2023. But here's the thing, just wait a few more months. We don't have to be in 2024, but 2024 start rolling out.
Right.
These chips are coming now, right? And so you buy the car, and now here you are. You bought a car, you're able to get all the chips in it. Before you know it, here's the new car now, because now there's more chips, right? And now they're making, and that's the thing, like anything that you're trying to chase, any kind of shiny thing, like in a weird way, like the shiny thing, I don't do fishing, but I've done a little bit of fishing.
Yeah.
Right? It's that lure, right? Like it's shiny, it's bright, but before you know it's a hook that's going to get you and kill you. And I think that's the problem, I think, with a lot of guys. I think a lot of guys that I've met, things like that, really truly, like you were saying, confuse happiness and joy. A lot of them have the same kind of feelings, right? Kind of do the same things and some reactions, but happiness is just very, very fleeting,
right? And
you'll have it for a little bit, and it'll go and fade away. Where that joy is that kind, like you were saying, that inner peace that you can have, no matter. I mean, dude, it could be a storm, it could be a difficult time, but there's that inner, like, okay, this is okay.
Right.
Like we'll be all right. But so many guys, man, want that happiness. And so I've seen it time and time again. Maybe you've seen it as well. Yeah. So many dudes, right? Instead of chasing their wife, their kids, their love and support, are chasing that happiness.
Right.
Like they're just a bunch of happiness junkies.
Yeah.
Like trying to get high off the happiness. And then before you know it, man, they're completely left alone, miserable. And listen, like you could be a 40-year-old and cool, man, you bag yourself a 20-year-old, right? You can go ahead and do that. One that's kind of weird because maybe she's the same age as your daughter or anything like that. And I'm speaking because I know cats like that. They're in their 50s,
right?
Pulling chicks at the same age as their daughters, right? And they leave their family, leave their home, and they're chasing this happiness, right? And right now they're okay, but you're starting to realize, that shiny thing that was promised to me ain't really as I'm not as happy as I thought I was.
And I also think too, when you go down to hard work, and I think like we can parallel this also, right, with like the grind. Joy is hard work.
Yeah.
Joy is not. Because everything good and everything I think that has longevity, typically it requires either a form of patience in some degree, always.
Yep.
And again, to me, in my opinion, it also requires you to kind of be in a place where you can have some self-reflection and understand that like you have to improve to be able to continuously like move forward, right? Because I think that there are levels, just like anything, to joy, right? Yeah. You can have a taste of it, or you can continue to grow in it, just like love. And I think that can also, a pathway to finding joy can also be passion.
Yeah.
Because, you talk about like what brings you, what are you passionate about? Typically, when you're passionate about something, that's your outlet, right? And I think that that's another thing, how you can maybe a better way of looking at, well, if you do something you're passionate about, you're never working in your life. If you do something you're passionate about, you're probably going to be able to find joy if you keep working.
Yeah. And at the same time, man, like some of us don't have the opportunity to be passionate. Like again, we're talking about autograph memorabilia. I'm passionate about that. I like that. But the truth is, I don't have the connection, things like that. I know people that do.
Sure.
That's kind of got me into some of these doors, but I'm not. But if I can, obviously, I love my job and I love ministry, but I'm just kind of applying that as an example. Like, you can create passion for what you're doing.
Yes.
It may not be the dream job, right? It may not be, hey, I'm interacting with celebrity athletes all day long.
Right.
But if I could have a passion in what I'm doing now, man, like, you can still enter. You'll never work a day in your life. You can still enter there.
Right.
I think a lot of us kind of take that easy way out. I think, again, we let that happiness thing kind of come in. I'm just continue using that because I think that was really, really good. We let that happiness continue to in. But I think you're right, man, dude. Like, we need to be passionate about our jobs. We need to be passionate about our families. And yeah, work-life balance is work. As much we don't like to say like that. I was talking to a couple the other day that I'm preparing. We're doing premarital counseling for them, preparing them for marriage, preparing for that next step. And one of the things that I always say to all couples, and I was telling them, is like, it's not about that first day.
Right.
So many couples that are engaged, maybe that's you. You're listening. You're kind of in this engaged phase, or you're dating somebody really seriously and you're about to get engaged. I always tell people all the time, it's not about the first day. It's about that last.
Right.
It's like when you're old and wrinkly, and you're on that porch, and your grandkids are playing in the porch, and you're sipping some lemonade or tea or whatever you're drinking, right, and watching them play. It's about that day.
Right.
It's about like when your loved one is dying on their deathbed, and you're holding their hands and saying your last prayer, knowing that you're not going to see them on this side of earth right, ever again, right? You're going to see them on the other side, right? It's about that day.
Right.
And I think so many of us forget about that.
Yeah.
And so we don't put in that work. We don't put in that investment. We don't put in that energy that we should be,
right,
because we're not investing into that day.
Right.
And I think part of that work-life balance is realizing, okay, like, where do I need to put time and energy and resources to make this thing work, to make that goal happen?
And I think it like, and I'm going to speak, I'll, just share a little bit about my own personal, like, I guess, struggle with that. Is, in my industry, like, we talked about a little bit, I do outside sales now for oil and gas, but I was doing an inside sales job, and I wanted to be the best. That's just who I am. Like, I'm so competitive that, like, I'm going to give everything I can. I've told you before, I don't know how to give 100%. I only give 120. That's all I know how. And so it was kind of like that, right? Like, I was giving it into the job. And even when I get home, like, I would still be texting guys, or I'd be doing this, that, or the other. And I'll be honest with you, and I'm not proud of this. And this is something that I've asked God to, man, forgive me of this. And I've even gone as far as like telling my wife, like, man, I'm so sorry. Like, in my growing up in the past 3 years, there were times where I do feel like the first 6 months to almost maybe pushing a year of my son's life, I wasn't engaged like I should have been. And I think that was due to a poor work-life balance, because I was more concerned with the shiny, because in my head it was, well, I want to do these things because I want to get a golf membership, and I want to be able to say I got a golf membership at a country club, or I've got a lease or whatever. And that just wasn't my path.
Yeah. And not that those things are bad.
No.
Like, I was the same way. I remember when Issa was first born, like, I love my little baby girl to death, but I know my work-life balance was really unhealthy at that time. I still, today's one of probably my biggest regrets. I don't have a lot of like memories of her at that age. Mm-hmm. And it sucks to say that.
Yeah.
It really sucks to say that and say that out loud. And I've told this to my wife, so this ain't a secret. It ain't like the first time I've said this, but I really had a really bad work life that balance that I was like, no, not again, not with my other kids. But it just sucks that my first one had to kind of face that.
Right.
Right. And now for me, it wasn't like the country club and all that, but it's like, I want to create a college fund for her because I didn't have a college fund. we bought our first house around that time, right? And so I was like, I want her to be, in a home, not in a apartment. Not that having an apartment is anything wrong. It's just a goal that I had, right? And I was like, yo, I want to make sure we're able to pay this, and so I was like, I wanted to make sure that my job is secure, and I would go above and beyond than probably what I should have, because again, I didn't realize what was important in front of me. And I think for so many times as men, right, and hopefully we don't get accused for toxic masculinity or anything. And if we do, who cares, right?
Right.
I think as men, we really do care about our jobs, and we care about how people perceive us and view us and things like that. And I think that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, man, this person's a good employee. I think there's some good in that, right? But don't let it get to the point and drives you such a point that you're missing out key moments of your life,
right?
Key moments of your kid's life, key moments with your wife, man. Like you said, and you've been there. I mean, I've been there. Like I said, early on in my marriage and my first kid's life, and maybe some of my other kids. Like, there's moments where I'm missing key moments because I'm missing my phone. Now I'm a minister, like I said, so I feel like I'm always on. As much as I would like to say, hey, I love to clock out and just say, forget it. Sometimes, man, something happens.
Sure.
That I got to hop right back on the phone. There's a death of someone's family, or there's something going on, issue, problem. Someone's dealing with something. Man, I'm right there.
Right.
I'm available, and I feel so many times I neglect these important moments and times. I can't tell you times that I've been on vacation, right, and I'm like on vacation, not supposed to check my phone, do anything like that. And then here you go. Here I am checking an email saying, hey, I know you're on vacation. I know you shouldn't answer this, but I'm going to send it anyway. And I'm like, yo, here I am sending. I'm like, I know I shouldn't.
But I think also too, Sly, like that also comes from a sense of like you're talking about. Like, I think it's a masculine, like, I think it's an instinct.
Yeah.
And I'm going to speak to when you become a father.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe even if you could even say when you become responsible for other people, whether it's marriage, father, whether you're adopting someone, whatever the case may be, you feel like that's your way of showing that I'm the rock, if you will, or that I'm taking care of us.
Yeah.
And I think subconsciously we get that mixed up.
Yeah.
But again, like in everything we're saying, guys, if this is something you're going through, like for our listeners, like, there is still time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no shame in admitting that or realizing that even now that maybe you've done that, like, and it's tough. It's tough to face that. It's tough to face sometimes when we're wrong, when we've messed up, because it's just, it just is, right?
Yeah.
And because I've been very selfish, like I am inherently, I think we all are inherently selfish as just people. Yeah. And I think that it's great. It shows great growth. And I think that it shows down to the core of a man, a bad dad, if you will, to be able to recognize your faults, ask for forgiveness, change it. That's a man.
That's a man. That's it, man. And I think you own responsibility, own up where you messed up, and correct. I think that's something that I've done. Not that I'm trying to overcompensate.
Sure.
Not that my daughter now has all my undivided attention. Every single time she does anything, like I'm just zoned in because I messed up, right? And not that I don't have any memories right there, but at the same time, I'm not trying to overcompensate to make it right.
Sure.
Saying, hey, starting today, man, I'm going to try to do different. And I think that's kind of work-life balance, is just being able to wake up and say, hey, today I'm going to try to be a better dad than I was yesterday.
Right.
And not that I ask that question myself every single day, but when I do, saying, hey, how can I be a better dad today than I was yesterday? I think, man, my kids are able to notice it. My wife is able to notice it. And I think that's why work life is important. Mm-hmm. I think that's why work-life balance is extremely important, because, man, we are part of these kids' lives, right? And we want to have them and set them up in a better situation than we were set up, right? We want them to, at least for me, live a better life than I lived, right? I want my kids to be better people than I was. I am.
Right. And in situation like Dick takes that too, right? Like for, I know for me and Taylor, like, we weren't planning on having like Benjamin at the time that we did. And like I'm glad we did, right? Like I'm so thankful for it, but it was not something we planned on.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a little bit of a shock thing, and I think sometimes you're never ready to have kids, right?
Yeah.
Like in not to harp on this subject specifically, but I think that it's okay to admit those things and you just got to grow from it. Yeah. I mean, it's up to us. It's up to you how you assess the situation and how you decide. Right, because it's a decision.
Yeah.
to grow from it and learn from it.
Yeah.
But what about paralleling this into, work-life balance? We talked a lot about family. What about with your job, right? Like, how would you say that you on a daily basis try to, let's just say, when you are at work, kind of give that respect there?
Yeah. So that's one of those things that, that I'm glad we're actually going to talk about this, because I think so many times these conversations, like, okay, why is work-life balance important? And they talk only about like the why, but they never get to the how.
Right.
And then you're kind of frustrated, like, dang it, I need to know the how. Like, I need to know the how because I'm sucking at this, right? And so I'm glad that we're trying to do that. Not that we have some kind of like, hey, join our masterclass. We're going to teach you how to, like.
Join the Patreon. Shameless plug.
And we're going to tell you how to, like, it's not. Like, I want to talk about this because I think for me, when I listen to podcasts like this, I want to know the how.
Right.
I don't only want to live on the why and the ethereal and just kind of maybe piece together how these guys do that. So one of the biggest things that I do, man, is I tell this into most guys that I invest time, because typically I think young men need this. I know even older men need this. I need this all the time. I need constant reminders. You master your schedule. Don't let your schedule master you.
Right. That's good.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I think so many times, man, we're just so not good with our schedules that our schedules master us.
Right.
We don't plan out. And listen, I'm kind of more on the type A type, person. I try to plan out everything that I do from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. Now, it's been a little bit harder season for me because I have one beautiful baby boy who just doesn't like to sleep at night, right? But I try to really plan out my day. And I'm telling you, I have a spreadsheet. You can find them out there. They're everywhere online. Basically breaks down every hour of your life, or at least of your week, from 30-minute increments. And by and large, at least for me, my schedule doesn't change a whole bunch, right? I know I need to be in the office at this time. I am a minister, but I do work at a church that I do office in, and I do meet with people and try to do things like that. And I try to plan out my life in 30-minute increments, right? I really love, I think it's a Full Focus Planner. I forget the guy's name who does it, man, but Full Focus Planner, if you want to do that, it tends to be really, really good. It has one of those kind of ideal weeks laid out for you. Obviously, sometimes you got to travel for work or things like that, and you can't really live by the ideal week. But by and large, it kind of breaks that down, and then it kind of gives you basic goals that you're trying to achieve for the year, and then breaks it down into quarters, and then it breaks it down like each day. Like, okay, what do I need to do to achieve my big goal that I'm trying to achieve for this week? Whether you're in sales, like, hey, I want to hit, I want to increase 25%. So let's say in that, you put in your quarter goal, like, hey, I want to increase sales by 25%. So that for this day, you need to make more phone calls, right? Than you did yesterday to be able to do that, or follow up with one person who said they're possibly interested, so on and so forth, right? But basically, that's what I do. I realize, okay, what is my day? And then one of the cool things that he does, and the reason why I brought that up is because one of the cool things he does is that he tries to focus each day that you're in the office with a certain task, right? He talks about backstage, front of stage, and side stage, I think is what he says. Like, what are the things that you need to prepare? Kind of theater guy. So he talks about what are the things that you need to prepare for the stage, like the main thing.
Sure.
Right. So for you, it's making that sell. Right. So what are the things you need to do in the back to prepare? The side is, if I'm not mistaken, it's like the things that you need to do to kind of like that you're about to perform, right? You're about to do your thing. So what are those things that you got to do right then in that moment? And then the back, or if anything, maybe it's like after, So it's this kind of idea, like you got to break up your life into stages. And so another way is like prepare, plan, and like execute or process, like how the thing went. And so that's kind of the way I break it up. I'm a minister, so when I do like kind of prepare for like a sermon that I'm going to present, I try to spend one whole entire day writing. I try to spend another day preparing. I have another day where I process, like, hey, how did last week's go, and kind of evaluate myself. I also have times where I try to set up meetings when I'm meeting with people. All my, like, one day that I kind of reserve for all just kind of logistics, like paperwork, all the kind of stuff that maybe are not my favorite things to do, right? And so try to reserve one day for that. I think the better you organize, whatever system you like, maybe you try a Full Focus Planner and you hate it, that's fine. But find you a system that works. Plan your life out, knowing that, sometimes it's going to get messed up.
Sure.
Kid's going to get sick, and so you're going to have to miss work. And then after that, you come back and everything's a mess. But I'm telling you, if you can master your schedule will master you.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so y'all know, like, one of the big differences, like, in me and Sly, I'm not type A. I am fly by the seat of my pants. I am hardcore ADHD.
Yeah.
But one thing that I do for me is I'm trying to implement those things. So like, it's difficult for me to do that in the standpoint of like, I've got so many things on my mind, just how my brain works. And so like, thank God for Adderall. Been on that junk for like 7 years now. Again, I took it in high school, got back. Like, I just can't function without it. Like, I'll be honest with you, it's hard. So guys, you have to take that stuff. Like, I feel for you, and it's hard operating like in these streets, like without some ADHD medication. And if you're doing it without it, man, like, you are a freaking superhero. But for me, what's helped me a lot in like navigating, because like, so again, like I said, I was earlier, we were talking about, I was doing inside sales. Like, I've moved myself to outside, and now like my official title is like, I'm a regional account manager. So like, I'm handling like everybody right now. And it's hard to keep track of stuff. So like, during the week, Monday's usually when our meetings are, and it's like an hour drive. Like, I've called you a few times on that drive. Like, it stinks. Yeah. But it's something I got to do, and it's fine. And so, I know that day, like, I'm not getting much done. Like, I'm going in there, like, those meetings are taking for a while, and then I'm coming home, and by the time I get home, it's 2:00. Yep. And so maybe there's a few phone calls here and there, and then I'm trying to fill up my week. How my job works, guys, is I'm basically like, the more appointments I have for lunches, breakfast, like just pop-ins, the more like successful I basically am. And so I try to make sure that I'm filled up, and then I take, usually on Fridays, I'm golfing. I try to. That's kind of like, in our industry. But one thing that keeps me on track, I know I kind of chase rabbit there, is I got a Tab S7, and that's like my brain. So I am always taking notes, and that's like a big step for me, because it's hard. It's not like, and so I set appointments through Outlook, which keeps me on a schedule. I have a notepad that has dates, so I can go back and reference things, because I used to be the guy who, you tell me, I go, yeah, I'll retain it. And it doesn't work that way. So that's been my biggest, I guess, if you want to say, like, what's your biggest advice for people who may struggle with keeping, like, staying on task, or just staying organized? For me, the first step was doing those notes. Yeah. And my wife had been trying to get me to do that for a long time with postal notes, and it didn't work out. And so I just kind of thought, like, man, like, I'm a big tech guy. I love tech stuff. So like, how can I do it to where I want to do these things? And it was, okay, I got this tablet. Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you could either, for me, I always recommend to guys when I'm first meeting with them, I like, I print out a sheet for them, and I sit them down and kind of, hey, schedule them. I'll meet with you next week. Let me know how this goes. And they come back and say, okay, cool, you may lose this paper by the end of today. I totally understand. It's a miracle that you got it here from Tuesday to Tuesday, right? Or Wednesday to Wednesday. Like, it's a miracle that you got it here. Now put this in your phone.
Right.
Everyone, pretty much a majority of us have phone. If you're listening to us, probably you're doing this off a phone, right? Like, and so you have the tools available. You don't have to buy yourself a fancy planner, like the Full Focus Planner. Right. It's pretty pricey. And I'm not gonna lie, it is. But you do have your phone that you can use. Use that thing. Like, use the calendars, use the thing. Like,
Google Calendar is fantastic.
I mean, when you start hearing about guys like, how Steve Jobs managed his time, right? Yep. Or some of these kind of old, like Warren Buffett, some of these old people that we think, all right, quote unquote, successful, right? They, again, master their schedule, right? And so if you ever want to get to a point, right, where you can kind of begin moving and going, you got to master your schedule, man. Use your phone, use those tools available to you. They're all over the place. Use them and find that one tool that you like and stick with it, right? You may not like the planner. Great, right? Stick to your phone. You may not like your phone. Cool, because you're going to get distracted and go do something. Then cool, find that one thing that you're saying, hey, this is what's going to help me. Because what needs to happen is that when you get out of work, you need to check out.
Right.
You got to check out.
Yes.
And you got to check out, and you got to leave work at work. Again, I know for some people it's a little bit harder than others, right? You may be a person who's continually doing sales with people overseas or anything like that. Again, I'm a minister. Feel like I'm always on call, but by and large, as much as you can leave at the office, you got to leave at the office. And I would even say, again, I do my whole entire day. So when I come home, I know, like, hey, Tuesday, I'm going to be doing this, this, and this with my son or my daughter, right? And so I need to make sure I'm available for this. Hey, Friday nights, we're trying to do that whole entire date night thing. So that's for my wife, right? And I'm trying to do that. And so I got to make those arrangements. And hey, this day. And so by and large, I try to manage even my time there. And I know that may not sound like very loving. I know it may not sound sexy or anything like that. But by and large, man, for me at least, I know that I'm going to devote this time to my kids.
Right.
I'm hanging out with them and spending time with them. What's the alternative?
Yeah.
The alternative is I don't hang out with them at
Yeah.
all. The alternative is like, oh, that doesn't sound very loving. Okay, cool. Then the alternative is then I'm not hanging out with them.
Right.
Right.
And that's just real.
And maybe you can do it without a schedule. Okay, that's good for you. But I would say, even if you just say, hey, from the moment I get out, whatever I clock out, 5:36, 4, whatever your time is,
Right.
from this time to the moment my kids go to sleep, I'm hanging out with them. Listen, bro, you're setting the time.
Right.
You're setting the schedule.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm just a little, again, this is just me, bro. I'm just a little type A man. I like to say, hey, from this time to this time, we're doing this. From this time, we're going to cook dinner. And from this time to this time, we start doing our bedtime routines. But I want to be there for my kids, man. I heard a guy put it like this once. I saw the other day on TikTok. I'm not sure how truthful it was or anything like that. But he said there's 3 important hours, right? 3 important hours that you got to interact with your kids. He's like, the moment they wake up, what kind of first impression are you leaving with them?
Right. Oh, that's good.
When they get out of school, just like the way it's with you and the way you're with your wife or your family or whoever you call out, or your homeboy when you get out of work, whatever like that, like, just like the way you had to do it, like they need that as well when they get out of school, daycare, whatever. And then finally, right before they go to bed.
Yeah.
So I try to make sure at least at bedtime, man, I'm interacting with them, I'm tucking them in, I'm praying with them, I'm kissing them and letting them know that daddy loves them.
Yeah.
That's just my goal, man. And I plan that out.
Yeah.
Because if I don't plan that out, before you know it, something happens and I'm like, oh, hey, wait a minute, this is on my schedule and I can't do that. No, like I know this is blocked in, ain't nothing gonna touch that.
Right.
Keep those moments sacred. And I think that's another thing that I'll follow up is that once you kind of get the schedule going, you get your time, you master your schedule, you got to find moments that you got to keep sacred.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like what you were saying about the phone, putting your phone up, leaving work at work. I think that's, again, like I told you, that was difficult for me. And I think that it's easy to relay that, I think, to to our families, like to our kids, right? But like that can also, to me, like paralleling that to your job, like that can help you not get burnt out on your job.
Absolutely.
So like, if you, because I've been there, like when I was working my inside sales job, like for a while, like at the very end of it, like there was a part of me like where I started getting burnt out, and it was because I was putting so much time and so much into this thing for so long, and I just didn't know how to turn that off. I got burnt out.
Yeah.
And it took and it was like, for me, I have such high expectations on myself with stuff like that. Like, and I'm hard on myself with it. It was hard because I'm like, why am I not performing? Like, why are my numbers looking like this when they shouldn't? And I had to really like kind of check myself and go, it's because you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
You can't recoup, and you can't, balance your work life.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got a question for you, man. So like, what happens when you do mess up? All right. What happens how do you bounce back when work-life balance hasn't been the best, right? What does that look like for you when you get home and, man, maybe you're in that burned out season and the last thing you want to do is play Legos with your son, but you just want to, scroll on your phone for a couple of minutes, watch some golf videos and stuff like that. Like, how do you bounce back from that? Like maybe you're there as a listener. You're like, yo, that's me right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hearing the schedule thing, time slide, man. I'm hearing all this kind of stuff and clocking out, but right now I'm not there. Like right now I'm kind of on that burnout stage and I just want a lot of me time.
Right.
What does that look like for you?
I think it's important to, again, remember, and I'm going to go here as a man, like you have responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I think there's a part of it where, again, this might not be the popular opinion, but you do kind of have to man up a little bit, I think. But in terms of what can help, one thing that I did when I was in that season was I made a point to go put my phone in the other room, because for me, super difficult, even if it's next to me. Like, I don't know about you, but I think it's just a side effect of having a phone, right? Yeah. Is that you feel like sometimes it's vibrating.
Bro, those fan rings, like when your phone's not even in your pocket, you're like, oh, someone's texting me. Wait a minute. Where's my phone?
Right?
That's freaky.
Freaky. And it happens
all the time.
Next conspiracy.
There we go. Phantom rings.
It's 5G.
It's Apple doing this to your leg.
Yes. But dude, I mean, it's a real thing. And again, if you think about it, like that's getting your mind off track. And for somebody, again, like I said, like I have ADHD, like when I do take my medicine, like it only happens, like lasts for so long. And so like I would go put that phone in there. I'd shut the door and I wouldn't let myself go in there. And I would be present. You've got to just be present.
Yep.
Try and just live in the moment. You've got, like, when you get into your house, like, I feel like the moment you should in everyday life, like, it's easier said than done to live in the moment, but especially when you get home, man, just like take it in, like take in all the moments. Like, I love this thing, something that I heard when it referred to, it was this guy talking about weddings, and he was saying, like, weddings like move so fast, like you need to take some visuals, like some mental snapshots.
Yep.
Love that. And like take some mental snapshots of your life.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you have kids or if you're in a relationship, because there's going to come a time where you're going to wish you had that time back.
It goes by so fast.
So fast.
I remember my little girl, man, I feel like sometimes I look at her, I'm like, yo, it was just yesterday when you're a little chicken nugget. And now you're like, I'm starting to see that you're slowly becoming like this little young woman, man. And dude, I'm starting to get like a little teary. I'm starting to feel in the back of my eyes. I'm like, I got to stop, right? Because it goes by so quick. And so you got to get to that point, man. Like, if you're a dude listening, man, you got a little one, right? Or maybe, man, maybe she or he is already full grown, right? And maybe doesn't want to spend time at home anymore because you've neglected. It's time to start trying now.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. The work will always be there. And I think sometimes that's the sad reality. We want to be such hard employees, but at the end of the day, man, our jobs, unless you own that company, are not going to be the ones bearing you the day tomorrow. Right?
Responsibility.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, you being one of those top 100 businesses in Houston or whatever city you're listening to this in, that list is not going to be the one putting you in the ground.
It's happiness.
Right?
Right?
It's at the end of the day, dude, it's your family. It's the people that come around you, love you, and care for you, man. I may sound like Ben Diesel right now, but it is family. Yeah. It's family, Yeah. And so I want to challenge any dude listening to this, being part of this, is like, work-life balance is important. Find that way, find what works for you. Put your phone away if you got to.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do to make this thing work, right? Not for you. And I listen, it's difficult because sometimes when you come into the house and the house is a mess, right? Things are going all crazy, or maybe even if you're just a single dude, man, like, this is a good habit. If you're a single dude listening, this is a good habit to develop now. When you're done from work, and again, you're single, if you want to, you could work till, 10 o'clock at night and they ain't going to bug anybody. But I'm telling you, there's an important thing to learn, right? In that moment, to say, hey, you know what? You can maybe say later. You can say, I'm going to work till 8, but after 8 o'clock, I'm going to go shoot some hoops at the gym. I'm going to go lift some weights. I'm going to go, go check out some restaurants, go hang out with some friends. I'm going to do all this different things because you don't want to create a bad habit. Right. That may hurt your marriage, may hurt, whatever. But
it's good to decompress too, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I think that, again, like you're talking about, like, guys, if you're, if you're bad dad, and, maybe you're just a dog dad saying, I don't got those responsibilities, like you're saying, like, it's good to just, like, get home. Like, I'm going to say this. You listeners, I challenge you this week. Take one day, maybe even 2, but just come home, put your phone up for an hour. Even you guys that, like, again, that may not have kids or anything, just see what it does for you to be able to just decompress. And for you that do have kids and you are married, like, take that time and, like, see what it does for you, like, from, like, an emotional standpoint, for that, like, mental health standpoint, to be able to just, like, take some mental snapshots of your life and of your family.
Yep. I think for the person that maybe listen to this and feel like they have a horrible work-life balance, my biggest thing is, man, reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
Let somebody know. Again, I'm a minister, and so I'm always going to recommend the church. And you get connected to church and plugged into a church, and find you some good men that you feel like, man, have their life together. You look at them and saying, yo, like, that person's a bad dad, right? Not a bad dad, but like a bad dad, like the good bad, right?
Right.
You're looking at them and saying, hey, they got their life together. Right. Their kids, the kids are grown. Their kids love them. Let me talk to this dude, and let me ask him, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Right. Finding some other men around you, maybe your age, maybe your peers, and say, yo, I'm struggling with this. Let your wife know. If you're married, let your wife know. If you're not, man, if you're a single dad, right, man, letting somebody know that, I'm struggling with this. could you help? And I think it's okay, man. And again, if you ain't got nobody, man, shoot us a DM.
Yep.
Like, we would love to be that guy for you to just
Ask
be able to talk.
BadDadPod@gmail.com.
That's it. Shoot us a DM. Send us a message on Facebook. DM us on TikTok. We'd love to be that dad to be able to come around you and say, yo, like, let's help you out. And if they're looking
for a community too, I mean, quick plug here, Patreon.
We got the Patreon.
Link below.
And we got a whole bunch of different dads there on there as well. Like, we don't want you to miss out, right, on you getting the help that you need. I think sometimes, man, when we live in darkness, it'll destroy us. Yeah. When we can bring it out to light and just let somebody know, man, one, it just lifts a weight off your shoulder, just completely lifts it.
Right.
And then you're able to move forward and really get the help that not only that you need, but, man, people around you need.
Because I don't know about you, but for myself personally, when I've gone through some things, even saying the things we have, there are still some quite a few times where I'm kind of like, man, this is ridiculous. I feel like I'm the only one going through this.
Yeah, no.
And I cannot tell you like the weight, like the feeling of that weight being lifted where I talk with somebody and realize, oh wow, like I'm
like no cap, like you're talking about how you moments that you messed up with Benjamin, and like in moments that we didn't plan that, like I didn't know that about you, and you didn't know that about me, but here we are. You're saying, oh dang, I kind of regret because of the moments I missed, and I'm like, yo, I guess you were saying that, I was like, man, like that's wild, because I'm thinking the same way about Issa, like, and we didn't rehearse, we didn't plan, we didn't do anything like that, and the truth is, we know there's a whole lot of people that are going through similar situations.
Yeah. And again, there's no shame in it, guys. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, like I said, I'm so hard on myself.
Yep.
And I carry a lot of regret. Yep. That's one of my things that I'm trying to work through, is that I carry a lot of that, because I'm just like, man, you're better than this, dude. Yep. Like, you know better. Like, you weren't raised in a home where like that's what you saw. You saw what was right. So it is difficult. And again, I think it's hard sometimes for us as men to also forgive ourselves. Yeah. And know, like, have you done what you needed to do? Did you go like to, because for me, I went to my son and I said, Bub, I'm sorry, man. Like, like for a while there, I don't know. For me, I was like, I'm not going to go apologize to a 3-year-old or 2-year-old. That's stupid. But it's not.
You're going to look at you and be like, it's okay, daddy, and pick your nose or something.
Because you know what, man? Like, I've got memories of my dad when I was young coming to me and asking for forget. Like, that sticks with me. Yeah. Because again, that's a man. Yeah. Like, and you just, your kids will remember that. And like, we're going to get into this, down the road, but like, that's integrity.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Man, dude, we've been rolling on this and it's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Man, I just want to shift gears just a little bit. All right. So, hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully some of these guys started having work-life balance, but at the same time, you said leisure, man, decompressing, things like that. Yeah. So what are some things that you and your wife maybe like to watch in those moments that you're just like, yo, kids are in bed.
Yeah.
We've kind of caught up on our day. We've had our moment together. Now me and her just want to kind of chill. I'll buy the TV and watch some TV. What do you watch? Obviously, we know sports, right? Got to watch your Jets, but past that.
So I'm a big binge watcher, huge into TV shows.
Okay.
Really big into it. So Taylor's not. When we got together, she started getting more into it. She's really, she decompresses by like watching TikToks and stuff like that. But when I can get her into shows, like we're really big into like documentaries. Like, and another thing about me that I'll go ahead and throw out here is
she buried him in the basement.
She gets ideas, and I sleep with one eye open.
I'm telling you, in
So
she likes your biscuits.
She likes my biscuits. Anyway, so I love The Bachelor.
Okay.
You heard it here first. I got no shame in it. You can make fun of me all you want.
I'm starting to see young guys like The Bachelor. You're like the third dude that I know.
Big fan.
Like okay, real quick. Taylor, if you're listening, you can kind of fast forward like 10, 20 seconds. Give me 30 seconds from now. Did you do it because you were like talking to a girl at the time or anything like that? Typically that's the pathway for most guys, because they were dating a girl that really liked it, or was it because of that? No?
I've been watching, on your own. I've been watching it since the very first season.
Okay, Taylor, hopefully you didn't fast forward. Hopefully you were still
with
there.
my mom.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Do you remember when remember E.T.? Da, 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 da. right? Like after the news, okay, on Monday nights, like, right? Entertainment
when you
tonight.
He said E.T., I was thinking like E.T.
Right,
phone home.
Yeah, I know, dude. Like I can still hear it in my head.
Yeah.
Like, and my mom like watching that shows. I grew up an only child, so like what mom and dad were watching, like I was usually there hanging out, and I can just remember, like I remember the first season, like my boy Chris Harrison, like walking out. Welcome to The Bachelor. Like, we're going to have contestants from all across the country compete for the heart of one man, right? Like, that's my pitch. I'll get into this. Jesse Palmer is not Chris Harrison. So for all of those who feel that way, change my mind. But yeah, dude, we're gonna educate you. You're gonna find the joy in it, because there is a joy in it, and they did a great job. I will go ahead and give you a spoiler. This is the first season without Chris Harrison. We can get into why that is. Chris Harrison's been the guy for 26 seasons, I think is what it is. And he's like the face, and there's some controversy, and he got swapped out.
Okay. And we're going to jump into this on the Patreon. This is going to be the bonus material today. Okay. Tyler's going to go ahead and educate me on Bachelor 101.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
So to kind of move on from that, though, like I really like reality TV for me, and I think you can attest to this. Like for the few minutes we get as dads, as husbands, like you gotta keep my attention.
Yeah.
So like reality TV is kind of interesting to me, and we'll get into this on the Patreon extras. Again, guys, if you're not following, it's in the description. Check it out.
Let's do it.
And Netflix has become a powerhouse with that, bro. And the way that their new shows have, like, they've got The Mole, they've got Love Is Blind, they've got Too Hot to Handle, and give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. And with both of those shows, they all tie into this new show called Perfect Match. So that's another one that I watched. That's fantastic. So like they bring all the guys from there, like all the contestants, like your fan favorites, and they compete for love on this new one. Okay. And so like that, like I said, documentaries. Like I just got done watching have you heard like the Murdoch murders stuff that's been going on?
I mean, I've followed up with the news and things like that, but I've not seen the Netflix special. Worth it?
Highly recommend.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And then, dude, I mean, this is to me, The Last of Us. If you do not have HBO Max, guys.
Dude, I got HBO Max and I still haven't watched it.
Bro, I don't know if you ever played the game. But
I'm not a really big gamer.
I'm a huge gamer. We'll get into that at some other point. But like, The Last of Us is, for reference, is a video game that was done by Sony. So it's a PlayStation exclusive, and it was what I consider, and I'm sure like comments like correct me if I'm wrong in this. It was the last game that was a linear, story driven like action game. So now everything is kind of, I mean, has moved to open world. Yeah. Pretty much everything's open world, but this was kind of like there's a coloring box you have to kind of color in.
Interesting.
And it tells the story as you play it. And they like put it into a show. And typically, I don't know if you know this, but for the most part, most video game
shows, movies suck.
They suck. Other than The Witcher, which I don't know if you've seen that on Netflix. But
that's Michelle watched it. I just kind of oversaw over her shoulder and things like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not a big, like, I'm more of the TikTok, TikTok, Instagram, sports highlights. Those are the moments I try to do that. And my wife is the one who watches all the shows. And I'm like, I'm that annoying kind of backseat driver almost when I watch shows. Like, okay, what's happening now? And she's explaining everything. It's like, you should just come and watch it with me. And I'm right there next to her. Like, you should watch it. Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm good. And so I go back to my thing. And then all of a sudden, like maybe 2 hours later, I'm like, oh, they're not together anymore. She's like, yeah, this is what's happened. Dude. And I'm like, okay. She's like, you want to watch now? I'm like, nah, I'm all right. The only one that I did watch is Love Is Blind season 2. Love Is Blind season 2. I watched it all with her, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
That was Shane and Natalie's season. Was it?
Is it it was the Shayna, right? It was Shayna.
Yes.
Yep.
Shane and Natalie. You also had Damien and what's her name, where he showed up with Francesca. Yeah,
it was the one that he confessed his love at the beach and all that with the girl, and still got married and all. Yeah. Great. So I followed up with her and kind of watched it all, and the reunion and all that kind of stuff.
You saw boy Nick Lachey like getting that screen time, bro.
I know,
him and his wife, man.
And then they got mad at that old boy who was all like, like what was he doing with Nick Lachey's wife? And she just like went off on him. It's been a while ago.
I can't remember.
He just had a very bad view of women and stuff like that.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. Yes, he's kind of the short guy.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. That was not okay.
So all that to say is I'm not like the biggest, but I try. I try from time to time. But,
Full Swing, that's another good one, guys. Like for you sports fans, Full Swing.
I will say I do like sports documentary. I watched the Nolan Ryan one the other day on Netflix. Man, that was phenomenal.
Chasing Nolan.
Yes, Chasing Nolan was really good. I'm watching the Bill Russell one that they have as well right now. So obviously I'm old school.
F1?
I mean, like basketball. I'm not.
Okay, here we go. Right here again, another one.
What's my homework? Give me some homework.
You have got to go watch F1 Drive to Survive, guys. I'm telling you, everyone out here, I am the biggest proponent of. My buddy Alex told me and Joe, my other friend Joe, who's the hockey guy. He's like, "You've got to watch this. Have you seen it?" And I was like, "No, we have no desire. I have no desire to watch racing. like that to me, that was on par with trying to get into soccer. I just had no desire." He's like, "I'm telling you, if you watch this, it's so well done, you'll like it." Well, Joe never watched it, and I finally ran out of shows to watch. You know what? I'll just watch it.
Netflix, you done, man. You exhausted us.
Bro, I am the biggest F1 fan. I could tell you everything about it. I follow it now because of that show. It is fantastic. And they won some awards, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And then now they took that same concept of how they did that doc, and they moved it into golf. And they just launched Full Swing, which follows the golf drama of the season that Live Golf came into the picture. And so it is so good.
I'll check it out. That's my homework then. F1, right?
Drive to Survive, baby. They just dropped the newest season. I haven't started it yet, but the newest season.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to check it out.
It's great.
Check it out.
What about you? When you do watch stuff, what is your thing?
When I do watch, again, I'm a big YouTuber. So I like YouTube. I have my channels that
Who's your channels? Top 3.
Oh, man. I really like, Jimmy? Mr. Beast, obviously that Mr. Jimmy, Beast. Yes. Yeah. Love Mr. Beast. Love everything he does. So creative and fun. Jimmy, he's another one who does basketball reviews. I forget the name of it. It just kind of comes up automatically. And abroad in Japan. I'm really fascinated with Japan culture. And so any single episode from abroad Japan, I tend to watch and kind of consume. Jimmy High Roller, that's who it is. Jimmy High Roller. He does a lot of basketball, following basketball and stats and kind of storylines that you kind of need to know.
Oh, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, he's fantastic.
All this stuff is well
the
done.
Guy that's let me tell you something about whatever.
Yeah, it kind of starts off very that, and then it goes and LeBron goes, or Steph Curry, or whatever. So I like abroad in Japan, and anything that him and his group does. He has kind of a group that does a lot of stuff about Japan, and so I tend to watch that. That's cool. Then I do Jimmy High Roller, and then I do anything Mr. Beast drops. Then I have all this other stuff. So I tend to do a lot of YouTube. I really enjoy YouTube. Then TikTok. I'm on TikTok all the time. Instagram. I tend to spend
see the ASMR stuff that's all over TikTok.
Yeah, I'm not the big fan. It grosses me out sometimes.
Dude, it grosses me out too. Taylor thinks it's hilarious.
Sometimes the food ones, and you start hearing them oh, that's kind of gross.
There's this old guy that does one, and he just does different stuff on the mic, and Taylor thinks it's hilarious. And we'll be laying in bed. It'll be 11:30. I'm about to go to sleep, and she'll send it, and then she'll turn over, looking at me, smiling, and go, "Watch what I just sent you. Watch what." And I'm like,
I can't.
Fine. So I pull it up, and all of a sudden, it's this dude sawing a piece of wood into the microphone. I'm like, why? Why are you watching this?
No, when the ones that they do with the mouth, and they're cooking, okay, I'm hearing it, but then when they put it in their mouth, and you start hearing the kind of gross.
No, I'm not about that.
Awesome.
Yeah. One of my channels that I really like to watch, that I don't know if you've probably seen them, but the guys that do the they do sports stuff where it's the secret life of this guy. He's a dog. And it's
yes, those two guys. Yeah. I forget the name of them. They're awesome.
They're really
I think
cool.
they're with House of Highlights or
House of
Sports?
Highlights.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And there's another group of guys that I just found that I started watching, and they do they rank things. He's all time point guard draft or something like that.
Yeah,
and they're really good too, because they give some pretty good perspective, and they don't really get into arguments. I like that they really respect usually the reasoning behind what they're picking.
Dude, I like my TikToks to tell me the news. Right, I think sometimes I learn a lot more about the news also as well from TikTok. Maybe that's you, right? But I feel like I get more real news off of TikTok. I think sometimes.
No, I agree.
Than you do watching it on TV. Obviously, sometimes TV could be biased or whatever, political swing that the TV show has. But sometimes TikTok is just people on the ground letting you know what's happening in their neighborhoods and stuff like that. So I think that's another reason why I kind of like that. But then when I do watch some Netflix or anything like that, I don't know, man. I'm typically the guy, call me basic, right? I don't care. I'm typically the guy that watches that thing that everybody's watching. You know, so
did you watch Game of Thrones?
I didn't watch Game of Thrones. I didn't do that. Let Michelle kind of watch that. I was like, eh. But I did watch Lovecraft Lovecraft Country. It was on HBO. Man, it was phenomenal. Jonathan Majors before he became King the Conqueror, right? This is where he kind of first got his start before he came out on Creed, right? This is where he got his start. Okay. Amazing sci-fi show, man. It was really, really good. I watched that. I'm currently watching that. MH370 about the flight from Malaysia. So for that kind of got to me hook. Yeah,
you got to tell me about that because I saw that and it's on my list.
It's getting me, man. It's getting me. It's starting to get me to freak out. I'm like, yo, like, do I ever want to fly a plane again? So I'm on episode 2. Almost done with episode 2.
Are you with flying, by the way?
Huh?
Just a really short little rabbit.
Yeah.
Are you cool with flying?
Yeah, dude, I love it.
Okay,
it's one of my favorite things.
I like flying too.
It's one of my favorite things.
There's something about going to an airport, guys. It kind of gets me a little jazzed up. I'm kind of like,
I love it, man. Let's get there.
It's like a mini city.
And me, bro, I always pass out on the plane. So one of my favorite things is just pass out and wake up. I'm like, where am I now?
Okay, are you the guy that like you've got your neck pillow? You're taking like you've got.
I'm too ghetto for that.
Okay,
I am like I ain't gonna buy $50.
I got a little bougie. Like when I got this job that I'm at currently, because I fly all over the place. Like I went and got like a $25 little neck pillow.
TSA pre or no?
I applied for it. I haven't finished out. Like
okay.
I need to, and it's again, I'm just lazy. Like this comes like the scheduling thing. Like I've literally scheduled appointments and I have no show twice. So TSA, I'm sorry.
My dog's barking, so I think we should call that an end, huh?
Cool, dude.
Dude, it was a great podcast.
Great podcast.
Awesome,
guys. Before we go, again, please follow the socials.
Yep.
If you go at BadDadPod on Instagram, there's LinkedIn there at BadDadPod, TikTok,
all of it. Go
check it all out. Patreon, we just launched. There's already some extras on there.
Yep.
We just got the Discord all set up. We've got our guys in there, our mods. We're calling them the men of the house. Our moths is what I'm calling them. Great group of guys. So we've already got some nice interaction going on in there. And again, for the algorithms, please thumbs up. Follow if you're on Spotify. Yep. Thumbs up if you're on YouTube. Subscribe, comment, guys. We really appreciate it.
And I'm gonna go ahead and do this. We did a little test run before we did everything like that.
Yeah.
We talk about a lot of different things. Some of the stuff that I don't know. I'm not 100%. I know I'm gonna die if Michelle hears some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think you'll die too. So
probably.
So what if let's just go ahead and do this. If we get 20 people to join our Patreon, we'll go ahead and release it. But yeah. We get 20 people.
20 people.
And we'll again release it.
We'll release it. Okay, I'm down. We'll drop it. We'll drop it on Spotify and YouTube.
This is a death wish.
Okay. All right. Y'all are gonna be this is an invitation to our funeral, basically.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll live stream it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Cool, dude. It's been real. See you guys next week.